If I leave here tomorrow, would you still remember me? For I must be traveling on now, 'cause there's too much data for me to see. If I stay here with you now, things just wouldn't be the same. 'Cause I'm like a, whatever, I'm a free bird. No one requested it, so I thought I'd sing it real quick. But that's a good way to just get everyone back and in the mode. How's everyone doing? Give me a round of applause, 1 to 5, how you're doing? All right, cool. All right. I'm so excited for this session. I literally have been just updating it along the way. Last night, this morning, things are coming fast and furious. And that's what I like about marketing. My past life, when I was in Norway, I was a teacher. And I love learning, I love reading. I actually lived, as I mentioned, above the Arctic Circle in Tromsø, Norway. So 2 months out of the year, we didn't have sunlight. And then 2 months of the year, we didn't have night. And in the summers, I worked as a tour guide during the day and then a bartender at night. And it was like a movie, like Taken or something, where I walked out of the bar at 3:30. You know, all the bars close at 1:30. We clean up, we have a drink, we go out. And it's just like bright sunlight and seagulls eating like Burger King wrappers and no people anywhere. And it's like everyone got taken to heaven and I got left behind. So you might just be in my dystopian dream here. But if you're Mark Zuckerberg, that's probably what you're feeling like right now. Because you know, things are, big news has been emerging every single day. Big changes are coming to Facebook, and we need to learn how to market without third-party data, even though we probably will still have access in some way to this data. And I'm really excited about this because it actually forces us to be better marketers. And if you work for an agency or if you're a trained marketer, it increases your job security, honestly. Like, it's not that hard. You know, I showed a lot of potential in the last session, but it's not that hard to log in and just click likely buyers and show them an ad, right? You can obviously do better, you can get better conversion and stuff like that, but that's something most people can just log in and find. That might not be as easy moving forward. And so you guys as marketers can learn how to do it and kind of succeed where others maybe aren't. As we talked about in the first session, all of this is coming about in my mind because of aggregation. You know, in the past, we all had access to different sources of information. No one had control over what we see because we all got it in different places based on our geography, based on our industry. But when you have a single point of information, that point of information gets to decide what shows up, right? And so when I'm looking for a car, Facebook or Google gets to show me the best results or the best ads or the best, you know, information. Now the trick with Facebook and why it's so slippery and hard for regulators and people to get their hands around is that we're actually giving them the information, right? For the most part, everything we read on social media is stuff we've also uploaded. And so we are the supply and the demand of this network. And so it's not like, you know, Facebook's crushing some ability for us to share because we're the ones doing it, right? And the more that we share, the better it gets. And so as consumers, we actually like these tools that are sort of monopolistic because when I can just click around on Google and I'm already logged into everything, I'm happier, right? And when I'm on Facebook and I can put my Instagram post, or I can put my ad to Instagram or Messenger or Facebook at the same time, it's just easier, right? So there's consumer and marketing benefits to aggregation, but also this huge problem, which is that a single entity controls what we see. And as we talked about in the first session, they control a lot, right? Not just Facebook, also Instagram, Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp. And so when we talk about Facebook, we're talking about all of these sites. Now, in the last session, you guys, most of you were here, so let's hear it. You remember how big Facebook is, so can you give me a golf clap, right? And then everyone here, you can help out with the golf clap, and everyone here as well. So now let's double it one time. We'll go fast. Double it 2, double it 3, double 4, double 5. Yeah! All right. So that was for anyone who hadn't been here. That's the difference between Facebook and everybody else. Facebook's the 5 clap. Everybody else is the 1 clap. And that's probably why they're also getting singled out. We've been joking in the office about Google just sitting back on the lawn chair drinking a beer while Facebook's on Congress because they're just as complicit in this sort of issue, right? But they're just keeping their mouth shut, letting it roll. Very smart play. So we know that the average American's on Facebook an hour a day. We know that a lot of you don't spend 5 hours a day on your phone, so other people are spending a lot more time, right? And because of that, we're going to see more and more aggregation. It's going to come in video. It's going to come in shopping. It's going to come in VR. It could come a lot of places. As we talked about in the first session, the spend digitally is actually going down everywhere except Facebook and Google. So welcome to the duopoly, right? This is what we need to learn about. So literally right now, Mark is on Congress for the second day of hearings. Anybody, show of hands, watch any of that? You get some of that? Any impressions? Super uncomfortable? Yeah. I wanted to just share some of my favorite. This is actually in my room when I got there last night. I just think some of the side-by-sides are so great. And some of the tweets about it are just hilarious. The face when you just wanted a faster way to rank girls by looks and ended up installing a fascist government in the most powerful country on earth. This one I really empathize with. Mark Zuckerberg living every young person's worst nightmare, trying to explain how tech stuff works to the nation's elderly. This is not a joke. This was actually said yesterday. How do you sustain a business model in which users don't pay for your service? Senator, we run ads. Right? That's how the internet works. I enjoyed this one. Mr. Zuckerberg, a magazine I recently, this was not for real. Mr. Zuckerberg, a magazine I recently opened, came with a floppy disk, offered me 30 free hours of something called American Online. Is that the same as Facebook? So the hearings yesterday, and I'm sure today, highlight a really big fact, which is you guys know way more than everyone else in the country. And I think we forget that when we're at Digital Dealer, these conferences, but it's fun to poke fun at our political representatives, but the fact is they represent us. And most people in the country are probably at that point. They think that Facebook does sell our data, which is not the case. They sell access to it. Cambridge Analytica did not buy the data from Facebook. They stole it from Facebook and then used it, right? So it's the other end of the spectrum. And so what they're talking about regulating it as actually putting data into Facebook as opposed to taking data out, which is what Cambridge Analytica did. But a lot of that minutia is lost. Basically, the idea is there's issues with privacy. What are we going to do about it, right? Oh yeah, my favorite one at the end. Facebook stock, this is true. Facebook stock went up during the hearing. Facebook stock up 4.5% on news that America is still run by people who own VCRs. So, and that's going to be an ongoing problem with technology. First of all, I would say anyone in the room here, run for office at any level. We need younger people with tech savviness. If you think about what's going to drive big decisions and big issues in the future and present, it's technology, right? But the people who are in those seats of power generally are the least tech savvy people. I had a chance I was on city council in my hometown in Brookings, South Dakota, and people were shocked that I won because I just knew how to basically do an email list and Facebook ads. And so I actually wrote a book about it. It's for free. You can go get it on Amazon. It's called 22-Step Blueprint to Winning a Local Election. And it's basically build an email list. It's kind of what the book's about. But it's true because you guys have the ability to reach out to the people you want to talk to, right, if you know how to use these tools. And that's mind-blowing still for most people. And so you guys are way ahead. But the problem is regulations are potentially going to be created by people who aren't in that position. So I want to talk a little bit about where we're at, and then more importantly, tell you how to get around them or get through them or just figure out what's coming next and how you can keep working well with your knowledge. So I think one thing that's really important to point out before we go further is that Facebook's been rolling out new privacy features, and they've been able to kind of build this as a reaction to Cambridge Analytica and sort of the negative press, and that's helped them go on the press tour and kind of hopefully win the hearts and minds. They already had to do a lot of these things because of a law in Europe called the GDPR, General Data Protection Regulation. The GDPR basically says that you can't target people, you can't take information without consent. And this is a big problem. We have a few clients who work internationally, and what they're having to do is go back to their entire list, request consent or opt in to be able to talk to these people. So I know I had a friend from Montreal. Any other Canadians in the room? Hands up. Awesome. Sweet. This is nothing new. This is something that we've seen in Canada, and that's the way it works in Canada with the anti-spam law. You can only talk to people for 2 years after purchasing. What's different in Europe, it's even more strict because even if you buy something from a company, that's not considered an opt-in. So for most of you, you don't care because you don't work in Europe. But what Facebook cares about is they have to comply. And so a lot of those rules and regulations are going to be trickling down potentially to the United States. And when we look at what's happening north of the border, too, we also kind of see some lessons that we'll kind of use. Now, one of my favorite things to kind of look at is what this could mean on a macro level. So this is a site called Ghostery. If you ever want to see what someone's doing, it's a really cool tool. It basically shows you all the JavaScripts running on their site. This was pulled from The Guardian, which is a big newspaper in London. This was from an article about how Facebook is mishandling people's data. And there's 58 trackers tracking people's data on the article about misusing people's data. And not surprising. But what's really, I think what people aren't understanding about the GDPR is that these sites, these services, are not going to be able, if you're a brand new user, they're not going to be able to track that person because they haven't given opt-in consent. They haven't necessarily clicked the button that pops up if you go to some websites that say, will you allow me to do this? And how are they going to distinguish firing that pixel? There's a lot of technical issues with that. And in my mind, what that's going to do is really make it harder, as I mentioned in the first session, for anyone to compete with Facebook. Because if you think about it, it gets more and more difficult for us to track people's data with other competitors. Who has data now? The answer is Facebook and Google. And as we build regulation, make it harder for people to transport data or track data, who's going to compete with them, right? Are you going to go to another social network if you can't bring your Facebook friends and find them? If you think about Instagram, the way that they started was you could bring in all of your Twitter connections and build up your Instagram list. Twitter, as soon as they realized what was happening, shut it down, but it was too late. People had already moved their networks to another tool. So there's a lot of talk now about shutting down network. Am I not on? Oh, I'm good? OK. There's a lot of talk about shutting down data portability, which basically means that, the ability to bring our data from one site to another. On one hand, it makes a lot of sense, because if I'm your friend and you didn't sign up for Snapchat, like, why should your data be able to be used by Snapchat? Makes a ton of sense. On the other hand, from a competition standpoint, how will anyone ever build up the next social network? So there's going to be this kind of push and pull. If I was going to guess, I think we have lock-in. We have a duopoly, and it's just going to be more and more entrenched. The more data that Facebook gets, the further they get ahead. The more regulations that there are, the harder it is for someone to probably catch up. We'll see if that plays out. But that's kind of where my mind is. And so, as always, we talk through the types of data that we have. The part that we're really diving into here is partner categories. And that's the data from my friend Tim. That's data from financial providers. That's from the grocery stores. That's all that stuff that Facebook doesn't get themselves, that they purchase or bring in. But they still have anything that you want to upload, you can use. And they also have the data on Facebook itself. Now, I had a couple great questions during the break. If you upload your data to Facebook, can other people market off it? The answer is no. The reason is they change all the characters to numbers and then import it and encrypt it. So if you upload your list of sales customers, another dealer can't target those people. So that's a really good question that I probably didn't clarify. So what is partner data? When you're in Facebook, when you're in the business manager, it looks something like this. When it says in market, max in market, that's all being pulled from IHS Polk through Oracle. Facebook basically has an arrangement with them to bring that data in. So if you've ever run an ad off of this, that's what we're talking about, this partner data. So right now, and again, I stress that things are changing, and I wouldn't be shocked if they sort of quietly walk this back. But right now, they're telling us that June 30th, they're going to be removing access to partner data for advertisers, meaning you'll no longer be able to run an ad to max and market Honda buyers. Yep. Tim? Yeah, can I personally come buy the data from you? Tim will sell you any data you want, so probably the answer is yes.
So, all right, so what we're trying to do
yeah, go ahead. Just talking to my chest, though.
Hey, Scott. Good to see you. So yeah, Facebook made some announcements, right, that partner categories is going away. I really think that there's a lot of money at stake between both companies. If you think about this more globally, just outside of automotive, brands like Procter & Gamble, big retail locations, they all depend on our data. So we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars worth of advertising on Facebook's platform every month. They're not going to walk away from that revenue. Our CEOs are talking at the highest level. So I really think that there's going to be a scenario where there's a workaround. So I would say stay tuned. There'll probably be some more announcements coming out within the next 30 days. In the meantime, I would run your campaigns as normal and just conduct business as usual until June 30th. and you can use partner categories all the way up until the end of September.
If your campaigns have started.
If your campaigns have started.
Yeah. So right now what we know is June 30th. If you haven't started them, you won't be able to start them. If you have started them, you can run them until October 1st. So again, I think I mentioned the first session, build the campaigns, right? Like use that partner data right now. Get people to click on ads off of partner data because then you can retarget them off of engagement and you won't even need the partner data. So if you create the ad for people who are going to buy in the next 180 days, anyone who engages on that ad, now you can target them without using that partner data. So set those up, even if it's using $1 a day on June 29th, that's fine, right? You have access to it. And like Tim said, things could change. We're having a webinar on the 17th, so if you want to announce it before then, we'll share it on our webinar. Sound good? You can make that no, like a week from now. Yeah, Scott. What? Yeah. Yeah. Ooh, can it be paused? I don't know for sure. I don't think. Do you know if it can be paused, or does it have to continuously run?
So I don't know the answer to that question.
I don't think Facebook knows the answer to that question, honestly.
I don't think Facebook knows the answer to that question either.
I would guess it could be paused, would be my guess.
So from what I understand, I think it can be paused, but I think you can flight it, right? So you can flight different ad sets.
I'll write a blog post about it on 9Clouds, and we'll dig into that. Because, yeah, we have some people we can talk to at Facebook, and they'll give us the corporate answer at least. But, I don't want to ignore my friends from Canada, right? And we look to the north for inspiration. My great-grandfather actually came from you probably think I say this about everything. I just like talking about my grandparents. I always joke, if you guys do any public speaking, you talk about your family, you're automatically the expert, because no one can be like, that's not true. But I actually did have a grandfather from near Niagara who came down. But, I think for a lot of Canadian marketers or agencies who work in Canada like we do, it's sort of like, meh, like Crimea River, right? Like they have never had access to bulk data. They've never had access to partner categories, and they're still crushing it. Like when you look at our book, a lot of the examples are from Canada. A couple reasons. It makes it harder, so there's less competition is what I've found. I don't know if you guys have found the same thing. And it forces you to understand your own data. So I think one of the challenges or problems in the United States is we get too lazy. We're just like, let Facebook give us the people, and we don't even know what we're paying for. But when you have to build what are called lookalike audiences, so you take your data and say, hey, Facebook, find me people like these people, you get a much clearer sense of what you're going after and if it's working. So I'd love to give you some ideas of what we can do without partner data. I was going to give you 3 tactics, and then this morning I came up with a 4th one. So I'm actually going to give you 4 tactics. I'm going to call it post-P Day, because Partner Day is coming. Is that all right? I don't know. It's a little, feels a little squishy. Anyone? I know we have Irish friend. Anyone else from Europe here? From? Okay, UK, perfect, yeah. So P Day is maybe not the best. So the first thing we can do, these are strategies that you guys can use right now, and they probably will work very well even if you have access to partner data. One thing you can do is target based on interest. Now, as we talk about, Facebook is gathering data. They have their own signals, including the Facebook pixel. And so they're able to say what someone is interested in, and that could be anything from hunting to the Lexus RX. The false positive you might get, especially if you're a luxury dealer, is if people are looking at pages around the web with a Maserati, that doesn't mean they're going to buy a Maserati, right? They're just interested in it. But if you're the Toyotas, Volkswagens of the world, they're probably not just surfing the web for fun looking at Jettas, right? So you can kind of decide where you fall on that spectrum and then target off the interest. When you think about if you're in a big truck market, it might be not necessarily they're interested in your vehicle, but they're interested in things that people who buy trucks are interested in, right? So if it's hunting, fishing, outdoors, if they work in construction, things like that. So you can kind of think about what are people who buy from you like. You can do the exact same thing Facebook does, just thinking about your own store. Ask your salespeople. They will give you a pretty good idea of who they talk to, what questions they get. And I think this is a great way to think about your own data. Look at what people do when they buy. Are they leasing? Are they purchasing? What are their ages? Any information you get, just pull that and use the 80-20 rule. What does 80% of your customers have in common? And then target off those interests or those ages or those geographies or those zip codes or whatever it might be. Because that's all data that you'll have and that you can kind of find likely customers. So the second thing we can do besides interest-based targeting is retargeting. And we can do this dynamically or straight out of Facebook. So a retargeting ad, you'll go into the engagement. You can choose if they've looked at specific web pages. So for example, if they've looked at the new F-150 page, then they're going to see an ad. So this is the equivalent of someone opting into an ad because they're showing interest, right? And if you want to think about it, I would think about it as a middle of the funnel. If you can use Facebook or Instagram ads to get people to your site, start looking at your VDP pages, and once they look at your VDP page, then they're going to see your ads. So a retargeting ad like this is going to be where you create the ad first, and you say anyone who looks at these pages are going to see ad A that I created. The alternative, if you're using the catalog, is you can create dynamic retargeting ads off of what's called the product catalog on the Y section on the campaign. So on the campaign, under conversions, third one down, product catalog sales, if you have a catalog, that'll show the specific vehicle I looked at back to me. So that way, the ads shut off when you sell that vehicle. They turn on whenever I look at the Ford F-150 with so many miles and this price. So that's a little bit larger effort, but that builds ads for every single vehicle in your store. Whereas retargeting, I would start by doing it maybe by body style, like make a retargeting ad for trucks, for SUVs, for cars, for used. And then if you want to get more specific, you can, but it takes a lot of work to build all those. So third, you can do custom audiences, right? So when we create a custom audience, what we're doing is we're using one of these signals, I guess, to build that audience. So that could be people who bought from you or were a lead, people who are a website, like we just talked about. App, probably not relevant for you guys. Offline activity, so if you have like a list of people who have called, you could actually import that. Or engagement, and I'll talk about engagement next. So off the custom audience, what you want to do is learn how to export from your CRM with a little bit of granularity. So how do you pull everyone who bought a F-150, they haven't serviced in 6 months, and you run the service ad to them? Anyone who bought from you hasn't been back in 2 years, you run the sales ad to them. Anyone who, lease is coming up in a certain amount of time, you run those ads to them. That, like I said in the first session, is going to be the most targeted and cheapest ads to run, because the audience size you're talking about is hundreds or thousands, not tens of thousands, right? And if you think about our rule of one from this first session where we say you should spend, at a starting point, $1 for every 1,000 people, your database probably doesn't have hundreds of thousands of people, especially when you slice it down to F-150 buyers. So you can target all your F-150 buyers, probably spend 50 to 150 bucks a month and get in front of all of them. So you can start to think about your key segments for your business, maybe by body style, maybe by new and used, and how do you get in front of those people with the right message at the right time. I think email is a really good way to put your mind. When would you send someone an email? And that would be where you would also want to build that ad off of. And start simple, right? Like just do it with 1 or 2. Those can keep running as your lists keep updating. The one trick with most automotive CRMs is it's really hard to get the data out that's not integrated. If you have a more integrated tool, or if you use an email marketing tool, so if you use a MailChimp, Constant Contact, HubSpot, Marketo, any of those, you can actually hook those straight into Facebook so your audiences update dynamically. If you use, say, an eLeads to do your email marketing or Event Solutions or a dealer socket, they don't allow you to share that data out of the box through an API, so I'm getting super technical, but basically you can't connect that to Facebook. But if you can get that data into another tool, it'll often be able to do a dynamic audience. The way that you would build that dynamic audience is using a tool called Zapier or a tool called LeadsBridge. I didn't mention that in the first session, I should have. Both Zapier and LeadsBridge connect those form fills into your CRM. I used to be a LeadsBridge fan, now I'm a Zapier fan, so take your pick. I think Zapier is a little more user-friendly. LeadsBridge has a more auto-specific stuff, but it also, I think, is a little clunkier. So try both, see what you like. They both cost in the $100 sort of range each year. So that's one way to get those audiences to update automatically. MailChimp's actually built in by default in Facebook. So if you guys are thinking about using email marketing that's not your CRM, which I would recommend, consider MailChimp. It's free for up to 2,000 people, and you can hook it right into Facebook. So basically, every time someone hits 6 months without servicing, they get added to that audience, they get added to that ad, and you don't have to do any of that work. So that's a really nice way to save time. Now, the fourth way to build these audiences off of engagement, and we talked about engagement a little bit, but I wanted to show you how this looks. So engagement could be they watched a video, they clicked on an ad, they looked at a post. And so when you talked about the football game example in the last session, you can show an ad only in a public stadium. not a lot of people are going to click on an ad to buy a car while they're watching a football game, but what would they click on? Maybe a video, maybe some kind of message to Minnesota Vikings fans. Then if they have engaged, you can target them back. So like I know our friends at Duval, they show a video a week of the owner like introducing a car, and then if someone watches that video, they can get the next ad. And my friend here asked about like, why wouldn't I just show lead ads to everybody to get the most lead forms? You can definitely do that, but it's going to be more expensive because you're getting a lot of lead forms from unqualified people. So what engagement does is it just makes the cost of Facebook ads cheaper by showing the cheapest type of ads, which would be like a video or a single image, to the most people, and then only following up if they show engagement. Now, if you want to show them vehicles, which we find the most successful, you can do that from the Facebook catalog. So what I'm going to show you here is how you set up the catalog. Now, there's two ways to set up the catalog. Both ways require you to connect your inventory feed into Facebook. So your vAuto, your HomeNet, your Liquid Cars, whatever it might be. The people that push your vehicles on your website are the same people that you need to get that data from. From what I've seen, and you guys please tell me if I'm wrong, none of them are pushing into Facebook for you. So we need to find a way to get that data because what they have is not what Facebook wants. So we basically need to normalize it so it matches, first name matches first name, all of that kind of stuff. So if you're a small dealership, if you don't have a ton of inventory, you can do it manually. It's a pain in the butt, and your ads are going to be out of date because it's only going to get updated when you upload that spreadsheet. So if you're going to do it manually, you would export a spreadsheet of your inventory. That would have all the fields like the name, the mileage, the color, where the photo lives online, all of that. You would upload that spreadsheet then into Facebook, and then your ads would pull any of the vehicles off of that. At 9Clouds, what we do is we've built technology that brings inventory from vAuto, HomeNet, Liquid Cars, and every day pushes it into Facebook. So basically, those cars are updated. And that's underneath the set schedule. So to be able to do that, you need to have a little bit of technical chops. You need to know APIs a little bit. And basically, you're going to match the data from an inventory provider with Facebook documentation. If it's easier, come talk to me and I'll help you out, right? But this is, I think, where ads are going. I'm assuming that down the road, it will get easier as people wake up to the need to this. But in the meantime, if you're an agency or dealer and need help, let me know. So what you do is, once you set the schedule, you're going to have a URL. So basically, your data provider, your inventory provider, is going to push your inventory to like an FTP. So it's going to live somewhere online. And then Facebook's going to go to that address and pull the data in. That data needs to be cleansed, right? So it needs to match up with what Facebook wants. The biggest problem we've seen with people who have done this themselves is that you're building an automotive catalog, which seems like a great idea. You work in automotive. But don't tell Facebook it sucks right now. It doesn't work. And the reason is the people that are building the Facebook automotive catalog don't spend a lot of time in tier 3. And they don't know how messy the data is, right? So they're actually asking you on the automotive catalog to push in latitude and longitude of a customer, right? Like, nobody has that. And so you get a bunch of errors. It doesn't work. So what I would recommend right now, and hopefully this gets better, and we're talking to them frequently about changing this, is I would use the e-commerce catalog because it's totally open. So you can push in any of the data that you need to without getting a bunch of error messages. The downside of using the e-commerce is that right now Facebook won't optimize to the different fields. So Facebook's pitch right now is if you're going to use the automotive catalog, we're going to optimize the models and the makes and the mileage that people look at. So if you show a bunch of inventory ads and more people are clicking on the red trucks, your ads are going to start showing the red trucks automatically, which is awesome. But if you can't get the data in the first place, it's not awesome, right? The second reason why Facebook's pushing the automotive catalog is that if you want to do Facebook Marketplace on your own, it's going to pull from the automotive catalog. Now, Facebook's not allowing people to do Facebook Marketplace for free, meaning not ads, on their own. You have to go through 4 or 5 different providers right now. So those providers are essentially building you an automotive catalog and then pushing it in for you. We're pushing pretty hard on Facebook to change that. From a agency side, I'm sure Dealers United would agree. Like, it sucks to not have the ability to do something that only 4 or 5 vendors can, right? Like, it feels pretty unfair. And they've been pushing that out. So it was originally supposed to be November that it'd be publicly open, then March, and then they told us a couple weeks ago at a meeting that don't expect it in 2018. And the reason is twofold. First of all, they don't trust dealers with messages. So on Facebook Market, maybe with reason, I don't know. On Facebook Marketplace, if you want to buy a car, you have to message someone. And so right now they're only working with people who have a third-party chat provider. So if you have a Goobagoo or 123 cars, like they will answer all the questions for you because then they trust that it will get answered. Facebook doesn't want a bunch of people using it. No one gets answered, then they stop using it, right? They kind of want the tool to work. The second thing we're seeing and hearing from Facebook is they don't want the marketplace to be all cars, right? They also want to sell shoes and like really shitty furniture and other high-ticket items like that. So I'm really fascinated by the marketplace. What we're doing as an agency is we're running used inventory or used catalog ads to the marketplace, and we're seeing 20 cents a click. And the benefit of doing the ads versus pushing in for free is it shows up no matter where people are. On the Facebook Marketplace, it's geographic. So you're going to see vehicles near you or shoes or furniture, whatever you're looking for, whatever's close by. So that's one advantage. And you guys can all do that marketplace advertising right now. And that could be inventory or could be regular ads. But we've seen some success with that. Yeah.
Thanks for taking the question.
Yeah.
So what I want to understand is at a macro level.
Yeah.
I'm a car dealer. I don't know anything about Facebook or agencies or
Yeah.
anything. I'm a guy writing a check.
Yeah. To do that.
Where are we on a timeline of this? Are we at the early adopter? We don't know how it's going to work out. Are we at the early adopters are already taken off and there's enough case-based evidence to say that this is a worthwhile spend? Are we late to the game? Where, as a dealer, can you help me understand?
Yeah. For Marketplace specifically or for Facebook overall?
Facebook,
Yeah.
overall,
Yeah.
the use of it, and
Yeah, so yeah, that's interesting. I always say, like, every time I speak, the cost for you guys goes up because Facebook's an auction, right? So you guys spend $1 for an ad, then someone says, I'll spend $1.01, so then Facebook charges them $1.01. So the more people that use it, the more expensive it gets, which is another reason to build your own data because you can get that cheaper now than you could a year ago. In the big scheme of things, you're probably in the top 25% though. You know, I talk to a lot of dealers, and most of them are boosting posts. And I know I talked to a friend up here. That'd be the first thing I should have said at the first session, never to do. So if you are boosting posts, it's okay. It's confusing, but basically I get to bid on, I want all the 24 to 45-year-olds who are going to buy a Honda Civic, and someone else says I want the newlyweds because I'm going to market engagement rings to them. Photographer says I want young people who like whatever. Anyone who doesn't match any of those criteria get boosted posts. So when you're boosting a post, you're showing your post to the least valuable audience. Nobody wants them, so you get them. So what you can do instead is a promoted post where you show a post that you've done to a specific audience. Same thing, but you get to pick. And so that's the kind of stuff where a lot of people aren't on Facebook. People who are maybe don't have Business Manager set up, maybe are doing boosted posts. So I'd say if you are in Business Manager and targeting ads, you're in the top 25%.
one more.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Where is it as the case is proven out by retail results, right? Where we can actually see a lift in retail vehicle sales or profitability or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, we should.
Check writer wants to know.
Yeah, we show every 30 days for our customers, and Facebook has, you know, probably 40 case studies of auto dealers specifically using it. So I think the case for ROI is pretty clear, and I'd say a 30-day window. So if you're hiring someone to do it, they should be able to show you each month what they're generating. We usually say give us 3 months because you get better with the funnels of converting.
But it's there.
But it's there. Yeah, it's there. Especially head-to-head, cost per acquisition is not in the park with traditional, and it's usually a little cheaper than Google. On the marketplace specifically, we are seeing people have results using those vendors, pushing their inventory into marketplace. So yeah, if you already work with one of those vendors, do it. I would totally do it. And I would try the ads into it on your own too. Yep. Yeah, you can run ads into Marketplace, and it uses, basically when you click Edit Placements is the choice you have to choose. And then you choose if you want it in Instagram, if you want it in Messenger, if you want it in Marketplace, if you want it in News Feed. So you can kind of pick all those. I would always do that. By default, Facebook's going to push your ad everywhere, right? They want you to spend as much as you can. I always take it off of Audience Network. I always take it off of Messenger, because to me that just feels weird to push ads into an inbox, in my mind. You can decide. It could make sense if you're targeting your own customers, trying to invite them to an event or something, but I'd say that's fringe case. I would instead focus on Newsfeed for sure. I wouldn't do right-hand column. We see no results from that. Newsfeed, Marketplace, especially if it's inventory-based, and Instagram if you have a good photo. So, and the nice thing about that, I would say use multiple ad sets, because you can do a different placement in each ad set and then just see which one converts. So everyone's market's going to be different, but you can test it really easily. So getting back to kind of the engagement and the data catalog, if you are able to, push your data in. You have that URL. This is what it looks like in the catalog. This is a Canadian dealer. I always like to show Canadians because if it works in Canada, like it'll work everywhere, right? And so you get your data in. The photos and the text and the price are going to be exactly what you have on your inventory feed. So if you don't take good photos, they won't look good on Facebook, okay? If you take photos that are super close, Facebook's going to crop them into a square for some ads. So you're going to cut off the front and the back. So just scoot the camera back 5 feet. You'll be okay. We see about a 11% decrease, roughly, yeah, we've measured it, 11% decrease in clicks if the photo's cut off. For us, it's not worth the time to go through and edit every single photo for an 11% lift on clicks. I'm guessing for most of you it's not either. So fix the problem at the camera level. Don't worry about going back and fixing all the individual photos. I wouldn't say.
By itself doesn't match with anything else online.
Right, yeah, welcome to Facebook being the duopoly. They get to pick, yeah. On Instagram, though, you can now choose wide or square. So you do have a few options that are helpful. But so this is what it looks like. Then what we can do is we can create what are called product sets. So if any of you have a product catalog or you're playing around with it, this is where the power is. This is where you group your vehicles by anything on the inventory feed. So if you want to find all the vehicles under 13,000, all the certified pre-owned, all the winter vehicles, all the new NX, all the new RX, basically any of these groups will show up in your ad. And it'll pull whatever's in that group in. You need at least 4, so that's the smallest you can make a product set. So then when you build your ad, all you do is you choose the product set, and then these photos are going to automatically populate. In this case, it's not a catalog ad. I'll show you one in a second. So I want to walk through some of those recipes after I answer this question, and then we'll kind of take any other questions.
You said you can create the product sets and it'll pull from the inventory. So is there a way to do, like, if it's less than 13,000, put it in
Yep.
this bucket? If it's more than that, put it in another bucket. It'll automatically do the bucket sorting for you.
Yeah, in real time. Yep, yep. And so whenever vehicles come in, it'll sort on that criteria. And you can stack it, right? So under 13 and F-150 and used or something like that.
Just regular queries.
Regular what?
Regular queries.
Yeah, and or, yeah. Yep. Yeah, so in terms of life after partner category, I want to give you guys some examples on how recipes that I had talked about you could do without partner category and how you could really kind of move past that and then sort of wrap up. So we talked about reaching shoppers down the road. This is one where you can show vehicles to people in a specific geography. This is a great top of the funnel ad because you're showing it to a wide area, maybe just an entire zip code. You're letting people opt themselves in, which I actually think is quite powerful. We see pretty good results showing inventory to an area and just following up with people who click on an ad. Benefit of these are they're pretty cheap, maybe $1 per click. Less if you do video. You could also stack video in those. And what we're going to do is use that retargeting. If they engage on this or if they visit that page, they're going to then get our middle of the funnel ad, right? So we show this to people in Anaconda. And, I don't know. You guys should know this already, but go here if you want these slides. And I don't know. Obviously, I built this as we went. So here's our examples. If they click on that Anaconda SUV, they're going to then get retargeted with this. And this is a catalog ad. You can see these are being pulled in because they match the criteria of SUV, right? And I could choose which photos I want in the front. Like I would probably edit this because these 2 photos are just stock images and pick ones that look more unique. Facebook's going to automatically put the highest converting ones in the front for you if you don't. So that's what happens here. So this ad is going to be we could base it also off of engagement or retargeting, which is one of the recommended audience. We wouldn't, after partner categories, be able to do third-party targeting, but we could do custom audience of unsold leads. So that would be a great middle of the funnel ad where you showed it to people engaged with your first ad, plus upload anyone who is a lead in the last 60 days and hasn't bought, and they get to see this ad, right? And you can think about uploading those leads, and they see usually we do by body style, truck, SUV, sedan, and let them pick which one converts. Facebook will keep showing them what they engage with. Once they have engaged with that, we want to convert them, and again, we would use retargeting. So we could do the custom audience again, and then people who are on your site shopping. So we're using that retargeting. We could do interest targeting at the top if we wanted to make that top of the funnel ad more targeted. Now, one of my favorites is using video because it is so cheap. So showing a video off of an interest or off of a geographic area, like I said, 1 to 2 cents per view, so you can get a lot of filtering done with that. You talk about your store, what makes you unique, pretty easy to set up. You could also do a lookalike audience off of this, which again would not require partner data. So if you upload everyone who bought a car from you in the last 2 years, you tell Facebook, find me more people like them in my town or in the next door town, and then show those people this video. Because data shows we typically hang out with people like us. So if Facebook can find people like us, they'll be likely to purchase also. If they watch the video, then they're going to get the inventory. This was a Super Duty, the 650s and 750s. But we tried to keep that message, going through the funnel. So if you're talking about why your dealership's unique, keep that message on top of your inventory. If you're talking about price, keep the price message going through. So you kind of have a consistent funnel or reason. Because if they engage the first time off of price or off of why shop with you or service, they'll probably do the same. This is another one off of that inventory feed that you can set up. And then finally, this is an example of a retargeting ad off of the catalog. So you can see that the price of the vehicle is getting pulled in dynamically here. The name of the vehicle is getting pulled in dynamically here. The photo is getting pulled in dynamically. You can do 5 custom fields in Facebook. One thing we do with our partners is we actually let them push other data pieces in. So like we have a dealer who likes to do a percentage off MSRP, and that would actually show up on that feed. So if you have any kind of numeric, algorithmic things, that can get pushed into the ad, payment stuff. If you don't like to show payment, you could just have text, right? So click here for web price. You could have it say that too. So that'd be kind of a bottom of the funnel. And then we talked about interest, as a way around it. Showing education off of interest works really well. So if you have a blog post about, say, the Charger, take people who are interested in sports cars or interested in Dodge to that page, let them decide if they're interested in it and which feature. Again, you could track based on engagement. If they're more interested in lease, if they're more interested in overall price, if they're more interested in credit, like you could target engagement off of that, and then your middle of the funnel ad would match, right? So if they clicked on the slide about finance, they would see the finance ad. If they clicked on the one about price, they would see the price ad. This is just a great example of kind of like lifestyle-related ads. If you think about targeting off of hunting or fishing, or in this case, people who like Porsches, make the ad match that interest, right? You have an ability that mass media doesn't. Every single commercial that you make can be exactly for something that person likes. So if you're targeting lifestyle events and they just had a baby, put a photo up about car seats, right? Like you want to match the creative with the audience, and using interest-based targeting, you can do that. And those ads convert better. Takes more time to build, but again, if you're building it off of recurring events, you can set it up and let it go off a daily budget and just let it run. And then, of course, getting form information, you can still do that off of your own data or people who have been on the website. So hopefully that's a little look at how some of those features work. I'd love to open it up for questions here in just a second. So last thing, just to remind you guys, if you need more information, if I went too fast, you want the slides, just go to /DD24. I also put up a Book Me link, which is essentially if you guys want to meet, talk today, and you don't have time to wait in line or whatever, I'd love to meet, chat with you some more. We have a book up on Amazon if you want a cheat sheet, and we'd love to help you guys out however we can. We do a ton of education. As I said, I was a teacher first, so we always educate first. We'll be doing a webinar next week all about partner categories with some of my colleagues, so you get some more information. But at the end of the day, like we talked about in the first session, you guys know how to do this. Canadians are already doing it, and if they can do it, anyone can do it, right, guys? Cheap shot. But yeah, it's great to have you. Hope you rate the session. Hope you stick around and ask questions. I'll take a few here. We got about 10 minutes until we got to kick you out. All right, we'll go Amy, and then we'll go here.
So I noticed on your webinar too, so most of your ads say that they are typically running a month. Is that your typical ad?
How long to run a month? Yeah, we usually see a decrease in conversion after 2 weeks, depending on the frequency. So if your frequency is low, you can run the ad longer because people aren't seeing it over and over. If your frequency is high, don't run it as long. So I think if your frequency is under 3, you can run it for a month. If it's over 3, I'd probably switch it up every 2 weeks or so. If it's dynamic, you don't have to worry about it, right? Because it changes all the time. Yeah.
I have a question about organic traffic. So would it be more beneficial for you to share others' posts about you on your page, or for others to share your posts on your page?
It's way more beneficial organically on social media to have the post originate from a person, not a business. And so what I would recommend is both for link building, if anyone went to Greg's session yesterday, and also organic, get your content on other people's sites so you can share them. So instead of taking a photo of your customer, ask to use their phone to take a photo of them so they share it personally, and then you can share that on Instagram or Facebook. That'll get more reach and get in front of the right audience too.
What percentage of the budget are you using at the top of the funnel versus
Top versus bottom? The bottom's cheap because it's small. I'd say top to bottom, I'd say maybe roughly like 60, 30, 10 if you did 3 steps, something like that. Because at the bottom, you should only have a couple thousand people. So it should be pretty cheap. And then if those are the more expensive ads, your cost per conversion will go way down too. Yeah, great question though. And I just experiment too. Yeah. Yep.
You talked about losing people after like 30 days. What if you run more than one ad in that same campaign? Like one targeted audience or 3 different ads?
Yeah, that's okay. Facebook will naturally show the one that converts best, so one of your ads might be running most of the time. Yeah, yep.
So is it smart to just start with 2 ads from the beginning?
So smart. Start with 20. Start with as many as you have time to build because Facebook will automatically update them. They actually have something called dynamic creative. So you could upload 10 photos and Facebook will try them and show the one that works. Yeah, so that's a great idea. Yeah. Yeah.
Question in regard to the detailed targeting in the ad campaign
Yeah.
creation.
Yep.
When I tried to build a campaign for one of my dealers a few days ago, they had removed the ability to I guess qualify the data based on interest because of some algorithm issues with it creating weird groups that shouldn't be there.
Okay.
Is that updated? Have they?
Yeah, it sounds like a bug that's probably been updated. I haven't seen that myself. And that happens. They change stuff all the time, which is why, yeah. If there's something changing, we'll tell you on our blog, but otherwise, it's probably just a bug.
They had an article about how undesirable groups.
Oh, sure. Yeah, with the privacy stuff, they are, changing things, and they've gotten in some hot water for enabling people to run racist ads, to run discriminatory ads, so they take stuff out if that sort of comes up. Another really quick lesson we learned recently with the client was they bought a dealership, changed the name, but they used a photo from the previous owner. Like the photo had been uploaded when it was at the old name, and the old name kept showing up for the ad, and we could not figure out why. And ultimately, that's what we got to the bottom to with Facebook was the creative was from before the name change. So sometimes if you have bugs like that, if you recreate it from start, it'll fix it. If you're always duplicating, sometimes things get just a little bit wonky. So we'll do one more question, and I'll let you guys go and come up here if you have more.
When I set up my lookalike audiences,
Yep.
it doesn't let me geo-target. It says nationwide.
So you'll start nationwide, and then when you go into the ad set, you can add in geography underneath that. Yeah, so it'll build lookalike nationally, but then you have to add another layer. And you could also add interest or anything else you want to. So you guys, it's been so much fun. I'm going to stick around all day, so come chat with me, and I hope to see you guys on Facebook. Thanks.